Hello, this Swarm HR help video is on vendors, clients, suppliers, and projects. So the first thing we're going to do is close the user access dropdown and open up the account manager access dropdown. There, we're going to go directly to projects. Now, projects is a tab where you can manage everything. As you see the already existing projects, you see the vendor names, the client names, and your employee names working on said projects. The first thing we're going to work on is adding a project. So we'd hit the Add Project button. There you can see you have to fill out the specific information that's available. You can select a vendor from a dropdown that you'd set in the vendors portion of the Swarm HR. We're going to talk about that later in this video, but there you'd select a vendor and then you'd also select a client. You set up the clients in the client portion of Swarm HR. And again, that's another thing we're going to cover in this video, but later. So you select a client and you select a vendor, then you select whether the project is contractual, you set up the project name, you give the project a description, and then you set the number of total hours and the project cost for the project, and then you add the project. Since this is just a test, we're not going to actually add the project, but we will look at some already existing projects. So as you can see for the first project, there's a series of actions that you can take for all projects. So we're going to look at the edit button for the first project. Here you can edit the data for the project when you set it up. So you can edit things like total hours or project costs, or even add a project description later if you wanted to. You hit close to get out of that tab, but make sure you save changes first. Otherwise, your changes won't be saved. So you close out of that tab, and then you can go into the Contacts tab. So this is an overall contacts. Here you can look at employee contacts, vendor contacts, client contacts, and supplier contacts. And you can also add contacts in each of these specific areas. Now, these contacts from suppliers are already existing contacts. So to set up a contact, you'd have to close this and go to the tab right next to it. It's also called contacts, but here you can see you can add a contact, and then you can put in the contact name, the type, their mobile number, their work phone, their extension, their fax, their email, and their LinkedIn, and then save it. And that way you can put that said contact into the other master list of contacts for the project. The last tab is to manage a project. Here you'd manage the employees in said project, and then you would be able to set an end date or get rid of them as you please. The next tab we're going to be going to is the clients portion. So as you can see, the table is pretty similar to the table in the projects portion. But the client name is first, then the vendor name, then the project name, then the employees. The options are also pretty similar. So if you hit Add Client, you just put down the vendor, the client name, their priority, phone numbers, an office address, the city, the country, the state, the zip code, LinkedIn, their website number, and the notes you want to leave on the client, and then you'd hit Add Client. Again, since this is a demonstration, we're not going to create a client, but we can look at already existing ones. They have similar options to the projects. As you can see in actions, first we have a contacts action, where you can add new contacts and add in information, and then they'll be there for you. Remember to hit save or they won't be created, but you can add contacts to manage your client. You can also add documents for specific clients. This can be any type of document. You have a selection. You'd also be able to see all your documents on this page, but as there are no documents for this project, you can't see anything right now. Now, you can close this drop down. The last thing we can do is edit the client. So you hit the edit button, and here you can change things about the client. Like you can change their vendor, you can change the priority, and after doing all these changes that you'd like to make, you'd hit Save Changes and then exit out of the tab. The last thing you can do is deactivate clients. The thing is, when you're done with a specific client, if you hit deactivate, they'll go into the list of inactive clients. This is okay. If you accidentally hit deactivate, you can always reactivate a client. So that's how you bench them and then unbench them, if you will. There's also suppliers and vendors, and those work similarly to how clients work, with the same kinds of options available. And again, to add one, you just hit add supplier, and then again, you can deactivate similarly to clients. Vendors works pretty much the same as well. You can just hit the add vendor button to add a vendor, and then you can just similarly hit the contacts, documents, edit, and then deactivate buttons if you'd like to activate or deactivate something. The main difference between these tabs is that you can create a vendor only in the vendor area, you can create a client only in the client area, and the order of the specific information is different for each tab. Overall, for an overview of everything, it's best to look at the project portion because you can see the project names, the vendors, the clients, and the employees working on said project all in the same area, and then you can edit things respectively for them in the respective areas. That's the end of this video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email us. Our email address will be in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned a lot.